Chapter 3, Lesson 1, Part 3, Dividing Fractions by Fractions. Dividing fractions by fractions, again, we're sticking with that keep, flip, change method. So in this example, I have 7/8 divided by 1/8. So when they drew the picture, they drew a hole and they counted the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of the 8. This one doesn't count anymore. And then how many 1/8 are in the 7/8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Your answer is 7. Or we just do the mathematical way. 7/8 divided by 1/8. I keep my first fraction. I flip the second to its reciprocal, and I change it to multiplication. So 7 times 8 is 56. 8 times 1 is 8. And then they did long division to simplify 56 divided by 8 is 7. So let's do number 20. 6/7 divided by 2/7. I keep my first fraction as 6/7. Flip the second to its reciprocal and multiply. So 6 times 7 is 42. And 7 times 2 is 14. So now I need to see how many times 14 goes into 42. It is 3. And I have no remainder, so my answer is simply 3. Why don't you try number 21 and 22 on your own, pause the video, and then come back and check your work against mine. I keep 3/8, flip 3/16 into 16/3. 3 times 16 is 48. 8 times 3 is 24. And 48 divided by 24 is 2. In number 2, I keep 1/3. I flip 2/3 to its reciprocal, and I change it to multiplication, and I get 3/6. 3/6 is a proper fraction that can be simplified down into 1/2. All right, here's a real world example. A rod is 5/9 of a meter long. William cuts the rod into shorter pieces, each 1/9 meter long. So we're doing 5/9 divided by 1/9. 5/9 times 9/1 is what it changes after we do keep, flip, change. So I get 45/9. 45 divided by 9 is just 5. So number 23, a rectangle has an area of 4/5 of a square meter. The width of the rectangle is 4/15 meter. What is the length? So we have 4/5 divided by 4/15. So I'm keeping my first fraction, 4/5, and multiplying times 15/4. 4 times 15 is 60. And 5 times 4 is 20. So now I'm doing 60 divided by 20 to simplify that down. And 20 goes into 63 times with no remainder. So my answer is 3 meters. Try number 24 on your own right now and come back and check your work. Ben has 5/16 of a pizza. That's what he starts with. And then he's splitting it up into 5/48. So that becomes 5/16 times 48/5. So 48 times 5. I'm going to do the math over here just to make sure I'm not making any mistakes. Is 240 over 80. And then 240 divided by 80 simply is 3. So 3 is our answer. Okay, so now we just have some more practice dividing fractions. Sometimes they're going to ask you to divide by improper fractions, and that doesn't change anything. You're still going to keep the change. So 5/16 divided by 7/4 would become 5/16 times 4/7. They're adding an extra step of doing the simplifying ahead of time. I recommend you wait till the end. 5 times 4 is 20. 16 times 7 is 112. Okay. So now this is where I'm going to simplify and find the greatest common factor of 2 and 112. Or 20 and 112. I'm not sure. So I'm just going to start with 2. 20 divided by 2 and 112 divided by 2. So I get 10 over 56. I can divide by 2 again. And I'll get 5 over 28. And that'll be my final answer, 5 over 28. So if you want to simplify anytime earlier, you're welcome to. In this example, we really wouldn't have been able to. So try number 26 and 27 on your own and come back and check your work. (15 over 22 is the simplified answer for number 26. And 2/5 is the simplified answer for number 27. All right, dividing with mixed numbers. Before we can divide mixed numbers, we have to change them to improper fractions. As you remember from the beginning of the chapter, we change mixed numbers into improper fractions by multiplying my denominator times my whole number. So 2 times 3. And then I add my numerator to that. My denominator will stay the same. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So 3 1/2 is 7 over 2. So now I have 3/4 times 7/2. I'm sorry, divided by 7/2. Then I do keep flip change. 3/4 times 2/7. And I would have just multiplied straight across to get 6 over 28. And then simplify that down to 3/14 by dividing by 2. So let's do number 28. 2/5 divided by 1 2/5. 1 2/5 as an mixed number becomes 5 times 1 plus 2 over 5, or 7/5. So now I have 2/5 divided by 7/5, which becomes 2/5 times 5 over 7, which is 10 over 35. And I'm going to divide 10 and 35 by their greatest common factor of 5. And I will get 2/7. All right, number 29. 6/7 divided by 1 4/7. 1 4/7. 7 times 1 is 7. Plus 4 is 11. So I have 6/7 divided by 11/7. Okay, so now I have 6/7 times 7 over 11. And I will get 42 over 77 and divide by 7 because that's their greatest common factor. and I would get 6 over 11. Number 30, 3 3/4 become, so 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15. So I get 5/8 divided by 15/4, which is 5/8 times 4 over 15, which becomes 20 over 15 times 8 is 120. So I can divide both by 20 here. And I will get 1/6. Okay, so on this page here, we're dividing a mixed number by a mixed number. So both mixed numbers have to be turned into improper fractions before we can divide. So 1 5/6 becomes 11/6. 2 1/2 becomes 5/2. And they just do 11/6 times 2/5, which would be 22 over 30. And then they just started dividing by the greatest common factor, and they did that in advance, which is where 11/15 comes from. So number 31, 3 2/9. 9 times 3 is 27, plus 2 is 29 over 9, divided by 3 times 5 is 15, plus 1 is 16 over 3. Now I'm performing keep, flip, change. 29 over 9 stays the same, times 3 over 16. So 29 times 3. 9 times 3 is 27. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 2 is 87. So I'm getting 87 over 16 times 9, which is 144. So I'm going to divide both by the greatest common factor, which in this case is 3. 87 divided by 3 is 29. And 144 divided by 3 is 48. Again, I'm just doing this in my head because I got my multiplication facts kind of stored up there. You might have to do long division. 1 5/8. Just remember, turn them both into mixed numbers first. I'm not going to do all of these problems, but 13 over 8 divided by 11 over 4. Then you can try and do the rest of the work. Number 33, 4 1/2 would become 9/2 divided by 31 over 6. Why don't you try that math out yourself and see what you come up with. The final answer for this is going to end up being, sorry about that, wait for that to disappear. The final answer for number 32 would end up being 13 over 22. And the final answer for number 33 will be 27 over 31. And that's it. Just remember, anytime you have a mixed number, turn it into an improper fraction before you divide. You absolutely have to. And then if your answer winds up being an improper fraction, use long division to turn it back into a mixed number.